You and makes your family stuff of value.
WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Good morning, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What happened? What happened?
I don't mean to laugh, right? But in my mind, I'm thinking, I wish there was like a football theme song that we could have played in the background leading into this. And then you play this hyped up song. I'm like, Ari is reading my mind because football is exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, all listeners, continue, Ari.
And this morning, joining us in studio, we have past president of the Football Federation here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Marvin Fraser. Good morning, Mr. Fraser.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Christal. Good morning, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And good morning, Team Fraser.
Question off of football. Do people accidentally call you Marvin Gaye? Do they sing the song to you as well?
No, some people do it, like, but older folks, the young folks don't know much about that person. But the older folks, they say, "Hey, what's up, Marvin Gaye?"
Let's get it on.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I take that now because the whole gay word was different back then than now.
It had an E. It had an E on it.
What about Marvin the Beast?
No,
the younger people might know more easier know Marvin the Beast.
Some of the older folks call me, Marvin Hagler, the boxer, that kind of thing. So they refer to me to older, icons.
Okay. All right, so that's just to break the ice a little ice there.
Mm-hmm.
We should have used the football to break the ice. Just drop it on the ice.
I don't think that's how football's working.
No, okay. Well, let's find out how football works. Now, coming up on March 21st, the SVGFF will be hosting their elections, and Mr. Fraser is one of the persons who's running for the title of president of the SVGFF. I think there are like 5 contenders. How is it going so far? Campaigning and so on.
It's a wonderful campaign. It's been going fine. My team and I, we're getting to sit and meet with a lot of people. We've met with a lot of persons in society, a lot of business places. We've met and had discussions of where people want to see football go. And because of that, we were able to put together a wonderful manifesto that is out there for everyone, and it's been circulating. We've been getting a lot of good feedback. People have been saying it's the best they've seen, and so it's a lot of information. It's about 48 or so pages, and it's available for anyone to read. And like I said, we've been getting a good bit of feedback.
So I would have mentioned earlier that you're past president. So tell us about your history with SVGFF.
Well, some people kind of misunderstand what SVGFF is. And so just to shed a little clarity, the Football Federation is bigger than the Executive Council. So the Executive Council is the arm that runs the football, the administrative side, but the Federation is made up of all the affiliates and other stakeholders. And so my part, I know the question really is, my past association with the council. And so I've served back under Joe Dells. When Joe Dells was president, I served as a committee member. And that was like around 2009 or so. I replaced one of the persons who was then serving, who had passed away. That was Larry Bascom from the Mespo area. He was a great sports icon in St. Vincent. And so I replaced him on that committee. And under Joe Dells' time, you were serving basically voluntarily. So I served then voluntarily for 2 years, or almost 2 years. And then from there, I was elected as a VP to serve with Venel Coombs as president. And then after that, I was re-elected as a second VP again for another term to serve with Venel Coombs again. And then eventually in that second term with Venel Coombs, the issue with the president being banned. And when that happened, I was elected to serve as president interim for the remainder of that tenure for 15 months. And so after that, I went up for election to try to gain a 4-year term to deal with football. And I lost by, I think, 3 votes, 25 to 28 or something like that, to the incumbent president who's there now, Mr. Carl Dixon. But of course, I continue to serve football in the capacity of Avenues United president.
A little birdie told me that, Good morning to the little birdie as well. So let's move on a bit. Your plans, you said you have a 48-page manifesto.
Yes.
Tell us some of the plans that are in that manifesto for football.
Well, the immediate plans for football is to bring it back to a state where it is recognizable again in our country and stuff. But more than anything else, if you dive deeper into it, our plan as a team when we get there is to ensure that we develop the football product from a youth perspective up, to deal with the grassroots program, to get that going again, to get a lot more youths playing, to deal with the school football, to get involved so much in the school football that it's recognizable and basically you could get something out of it. Then, and I'm not talking about just secondary school football, I'm talking about making the primary school level football something, because you have to start from grassroots, going to primary school, then up to secondary school, and from there the next thing you look at is to ensure that the clubs and the leagues are well organized and well set. And so our development plan stems from grassroots all the way up to the clubs and league level. And to do that, a lot of it you look at getting into your national product. If the clubs and the leagues are not strengthened and sustainable, self-sustainable, then you can't reach the point where your national product is good enough. And so we plan to deal with football on a holistic level, from schools and grassroots all the way up to the national teams. And that is one aspect. Then we plan to make sure that we deal with the administration of football, and not just from a executive council, not just from the office staff, but administration as it pertains to all clubs and leagues. You must help the clubs and league to be able to administrate properly. So all these aspects you have to deal with: the educational aspect, the scholarship aspect for to get players out of St. Vincent aspiring for something different, these incentives. So all of these things we plan to deal with. Infrastructure, of course, you're talking about ensuring that the place where we play football are up to standard. We need the proper infrastructure, and so we have to look at that. We have to look at being able to come home from work and being able to play football till about 8-9 o'clock, because if some people get home and by the time they beat traffic at 6 o'clock, you can't do anything. And so if we're talking about getting football at a level, we have to try to lift the standard all across, like we're seeing in neighboring Caribbean countries. When you go to these countries, every little field, every little plot of grass that you could play sport on has at least some poles with some lights so that people could play football in the night. And so these are some of the things that we plan to deal with, from administration to the football itself, to marketing and getting people on board, stakeholders, meeting with the government, getting all of these things. These are some of the plans that we have, immediate plans to start rolling as soon as we get there.
Okay. You mentioned sustainability, right? I remember in the past, we would have discussions about football players on the national team having to their 8 to 4, 9 to 5 hustle home to go and practice and train. What are the plans for those players? Would they have to have a job and then go and train after? What will it be like?
Well, Christal, unless we fix football in a way that you are able to reward your national players, and rightfully, what happens is that football in other countries where you have players on their national team, they don't depend on their national team for income. They go and they represent their national team, but most of them play for clubs. And when they play for clubs, that is where they get their income. And so if we're talking about football being able to sustain these players, what we have to do, like I said, is make the clubs in themselves sustainable. All of your national players should be coming from your elite clubs. And your elite clubs should be set up in such a way that they're able to pay their players. But that is not happening as yet. So what we have to do is lift the standard of play so much in St. Vincent that we are able to aspire to something like a semi-professional or a professional league, where we are able to pay players to play. if we're looking at football sustaining them. Other than that, is to partner up with corporates in Vincent and get these players employed. And so when it is time for national service, these corporate entities know that these guys are representing the country, and patriotism speaks to the fact that you have to allow them to leave the work at a certain time so that they would be able to go and train and represent the country. So you have two pathways to take. The immediate pathway is trying to get them employed and to get them out there. And then the next thing is to develop football in such a way that you have all the clubs and leagues able to sustain and able to pay these players so that you don't have that kind of hustle from work straight into training, all tired, some of them doing construction, some of them. So you have to fix that issue. And so that is part of our plans going forward too.
Okay, so on a lighter note, Krempel says, good morning. He said you're the one who gave him the name, so he shouting you out this morning.
Big up my brother. Respect.
Now, you mentioned payments. I have two questions. First of which, how do you intend on securing funding to make this a reality, to have football players receive salaries?
Right. So this is where we have to ensure that we engage corporate entities. We have to get them to buy into our manifesto and the plans going forward for football. And that is some of the conversations that we had even before we put together the manifesto. Persons who are willing to see football on that level. Vinci, people love football. Most of the people are upset when we lose to anybody. And so if you want to seriously see football develop in a certain manner and reach a certain stage, then try to put your money where your mouth is. And that is what we've been trying to say. If we develop the product in such a way that you are comfortable with it, are you willing to buy into it? A lot of people have said yes. If we change the way that the product is right now and the way that it is pushed to the public, market it properly, get it out there, then persons not just in St. Vincent, but in the diaspora have promised to get on board. And then there are project fundings that you could actually do. Write for project, look for additional funding that you could get so that you could actually have that aspect of football organized. It is not going to happen overnight, but once you engage in discussions and you get it done, of course, if you have corporates in Vincent and the government on board, Little St. Lucia just did it. St. Lucia just started their professional league, and they did it because a lot of persons and entities bought into the vision that the president demonstrated. And so that is what we have to do.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're looking for grants, you're looking for investors, and you're looking for advertisers.
Basically.
Okay.
Basically, you have to get persons on board on it. And so if you're going to have a semi-professional game, people must be rushing to be a part of it. The sponsorship must be something that you get and able to push towards to have that effect. So yes.
Okay, so I myself, I'm not a big football fan. I'm a fan of different sports, but not football, unfortunately. But I am friends with a lot of football heads. And something recurrent I hear them complaining about here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the staffing at the federation. And it's of their belief that there's a huge staff or there's a large staff at the federation, and they feel like there are people who are looking for a job, or not necessarily persons who have a love for the sport itself. They also complain, like for example, there are persons working at the federation that don't even know some of the names of the players. So what will be done to address this?
Well, like I said, there has to be educational assessment and change when we get there. Now, not necessarily change in personnel to get people out and to get new people in, because you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. But what you can do is make an assessment of where persons are, where their strengths and their weaknesses are, and try to ensure that you put persons in the right positions, in the right roles. What you have to do when we get there is ensure that we do job descriptions for everyone, make sure persons are appraised and assessed, make sure that we have proper HR structure, proper operational manual, SOPs. All of these things must be put in place with a proper setup of human resource management. When you do that, then you're able to analyze your staff, see where they are, and see where you are to have them. Now, like you said, if you are to be employed in football right now because there's nothing else to do, you would take the job because it's survival. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow in love with something. And eventually you could grow in love with it, being there. I know persons who started out as they just wanted a job, but they've fallen in love with it and they love their job. And there are others who not so. Some people take a little while longer than others. But to tell you the truth, I think everybody who is at the Football Federation currently, there needs to be a general assessment done, and persons need to be placed in specific places where they shine most. So you're giving them the opportunity to shine and not them trying to be what we call square pegs in round holes.
Yeah. So we have a question here on the live. More parks need lights. Any plan in the works?
If persons were following me back then in 2019, 2018, 2019, one of the things that I went about trying to get done was fields lit. That was one of my things that I wanted to get done in the 15 months at least, to get lights at one park. One of the parks that was earmarked was the Brighton playing field. Another one was the grammar school playing field, because that is heavily utilized and it's central and it would bring back a kind of vibes in town. Another one was the Camden Park area, because that too is a vibrant community of people who love football. And then we head out to the windward side and we were trying to get Georgetown done. Now, it is not as easy as 1 to 3, because to do that, you get project funding from FIFA to light these fields. And FIFA made a kind of agreement that they wanted our government, because our government owned the fields, and they wanted our government to stipulate in that agreement that football would have first preference when it comes to the fields after FIFA would have invested the money in those. Now it is kind of a ticklish issue based on how the government sees that and how FIFA sees it. And because of that, I couldn't tie down the deal. Now moving forward, what I believe that we have to do is try our best to go back to the table, revisit the conversation, and knowing that we are now 4 years behind, I believe that I could get the FIFA to understand differently how the mechanics of our government work based on the fact of playing fields. Yes. And I believe that because I have seen other persons who have gone through different discussions. And right now, I think that we could work out something different than being so hard and fast. It just has to go back to the table with negotiations. Yes?
Yeah, but I'm not a football head, but I'm a little confused to hear this, because there are fields, and we just saw the cricket taking preference in Arnottsville, and there are different fields that different sports would take preference. So why are we having issues with having at least one where football is the prevalent sport?
Well, it is, like I said, it's how it is how people see things. Now let's just say, for instance, you are in a political position of authority, and you have given football the preference to a certain field based on the fact that football has invested money in it. And let's just say somebody wants to use that field, and because football has given the preference and football wants to use it also, you don't have the privilege then to say who gets it, even though you are in a political position of authority. And so what I'm doing is taking away your authority from you based on the fact that this field still belongs to you. It is yours. All I've done is invested in it. And so it needs to have a different level of conversation, because not everybody wants to surrender their authority based on the fact that investors come. And of course, I think from a political perspective, even if FIFA doesn't invest in certain things, the persons who are at the helm of the country have investors that they could use to develop these fields. And so it is just about prioritizing and getting things done.
This is rather interesting. In terms of making playing fields fit for football, what are your plans for that? Because not every playing field you could go and kick balls on.
Well, the fields that are normally used for football, a number of them are not up to the standard size to play 11v11. And so if you notice, some of them play 9v9 football, and so it's a different thing. The fact, though, is that majority of these fields don't have proper facilities, washroom facilities. And so if you have female games at these facilities, you don't have the necessary things in place for the females to change and that kind of thing. Those things we have to look at. The fields that the football federation, the executive council, what we're going to use for tournaments and competitions must be looked at. The major fields, because these fields must be adequately equipped to accommodate female and male games. So those are things that we have in our plans to look at, but it's going to take a process one by one, because it demands looking for proper funding, speaking with the owners of these facilities, whether it be the National Sports Council, the National Lottery, the Ministry of Sports, sitting and having those conversations. And so partnership is vital going forward for the future of football, ensuring that these stakeholders are with you and see your vision and want to help push that vision for the development of football. Like I said, a lot of people love football, want to see us accomplish stuff, but it is time for us to put our money where our mouths are.
All right.
So this is a timely and informative discussion, but with all things, we need to take a break. So it's now 8:30 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back where we're going to take calls and questions from our listeners.
On Friday, March 1st, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $71,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $71,000.
Do you spin a dial to make a call on your rotary phone from the 60s?
No.
Are you driving an unreliable and risky automobile made in the 1900s?
Of course not.
Are you still fiddling with an antenna to get good signal on your black and white television from the 20s?
Really?
Then why are you still stuck in the past, sitting on an unintelligent 1930s design toilet? That's right, 1930s design. What does your bathroom say about you? Don't get left behind. The future is now. Be smart. Be progressive. Get yourself a smart toilet seat or a complete toilet today. You can visit the My Smart Toilet Seat office on the 3rd floor of the Blue Corner building opposite the old Anglican School on Bay Street. Our smart toilets are also available throughout St. Vincent at retail outlets with the orange flags. For more information, you can call us at 457-1703 or visit our website, justwashit.vc.
Whether you're ripping it up on the highway or taking a casual Sunday drive, OT Tire Limited is second to none when delivering excellence at reasonable prices. We offer new and used tires, tire repair and installation. We are the only place that offers nitrogen, which helps with gas consumption and ride comfort. Supplying you with brand name tires like Maxxis, Kumo, Good Ride, Westlake, and Triangle.
Boom! Enjoy the VIP style customer waiting lounge with refreshments and free Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying, yo? This is Skinny Fabulous, and when it comes to tires, nobody makes it easier than OT. Boom! Got me on the road with me OT tire.
Follow OT Tire on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter today.
Hey, boom! Run the road with OT tires.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a whole new world out there. Reaching new customers and getting products faster. That's what it's all about. Ocean freight rates are skyrocketing, so don't pay more for slower service. It's time to switch to faster, more reliable air cargo service with SkyMax Cargo. Up to 3 flights weekly to and from the USA, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean Islands. Providing excellent import, export, and e-commerce solutions to put you ahead of the competition. For special low rates on small packages and air cargo, contact SkyMax today. 784-456-5400. Local agents SwiftPack Interbrand Cargo. Call 784-456-5400 to book your shipments today.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And the time is now 8:33, well, 8:34 here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And if you're just joining us, we're talking everything football with Marvin Fraser, past president of the Football Federation, and now, what would you call
Candidate. Candidate.
I
for
wasn't
the-
going with candidate, and I was
Well,
going with
he's-
something else. But you're right, candidate for the upcoming federation elections.
He's interested in being the president of the SVGFF for the next 4 years. So he's I can't think of another word for candidate either. Anyways, we got like 9 minutes thereabout to get everything else jam-packed in this session here. If you want to call 4579997 WhatsApp, and you got to make it short and sweet. Now, 4 years, one term. Do you think that's enough time for you to accomplish what you have planned for football?
Definitely not. There are some things that are in the manifesto that are long term and some that are short term, immediate accomplishment. Things like ensuring that we, in the short term, develop stuff for our coaches, for our officials, clubs, leagues, administration, communication out of the secretariat. Those things are easy and readily available. Continue once and ensure that we continue with the finance program, finance and governance, accountability issues, integrity issues. Those things are right there. Things like infrastructure, though, you have to think bigger, and it takes steps. So there are some that are easily achievable in the not too distant future.
All right, so let's take a call at this time. Hello, good morning.
Brother Christal, my brother, they're going to be very short.
Yeah,
Just
we
want
have
to
like a
say to
minute.
my brother.
Okay. I think you mean well, but you have to understand that this is so many years we've seen the very dangerous decline. We have what the top in every sport. And look at the situation in Brazil. And we see Brazil after the dictatorship, they have plunged them into, financial disarray. The Brazilian team literally can't even come, they're falling away. Even the very, stadiums are rotting down. And look at our football, it's falling away. But so, you mean to tell me that only 2024 we are now going to put it together? Only 24, now you don't know the corporate can't even pay it, My brother, we don't have the resources. We need people who care about us, who care about our young people, not just in football. We have to sport because it's not gonna, whether you're the best man or not, it's not going to get better until we make that change to put people who can be accountable. Look at what has happened even with your football association. Can't even account for the monies that they were given. Are you going to be different? You can talk all you want. You have to act. You have to be realistic to what is happening in our country. It's going to get worse, my brother. We got to make changes now to get back our country. I love you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
I could say that I agree. And that is what we're trying to do. You have to definitely make changes. I understand the passion for that caller. And I know that it's probably coming from other places than just football. But it is something that if you don't make changes, then you are eventually going to be spitting, tapping mud and doing the same things over and over again. And so he's right. Yeah, you have to make changes to make sure that things work. What changes are necessary? There's many that if you speak to other persons besides him, they would be able to pinpoint a number of changes that can be made. But you still have to prioritize and be able to say, this is, if you know there's funding that is needed, you then have to say to yourself, okay, this is one of the problems. Unless you get the funding and stuff, then you have to look for the funding. And if he's saying that accountability and transparency is one that is a problem, then you have to put things in place to make sure that you facilitate transparency and accountability. So where there are issues, anytime you have problems, there's always people who could come up with solution. And that has been proven over time. Anytime there's issues, you could have solutions. Things start, the first computer was big like this table. And then eventually people worked on it. And now you have little phones that are doing the same things that computers can do. And so man, with their intelligence, could sit down and come up with solutions to every problem. And I just want to let the caller know that.
All right. So there are lots of things that are outside of your control.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges that you foresee in your plans to attempt on some of the goals to be accomplished?
Well, one of the first things that we have to change is the mindset of everyone. And changing people's mindset is one of the biggest challenges that you could find. The players' mindset has to change. They have to see football as a way out professionally. The persons who are administrating football, who are putting things in place, they have to see it too as not just something for self-aggrandization, but something that they could use to help persons, even in poverty, to get out of this country. We have to change the mindset of the affiliates, the clubs, the leagues. They have to see themselves as arms of the development, and not just single entity, standalone entity. They have to see it as a together thing. If they don't change their mindset and want to see the best persons, the persons who they know can bring about change and bring about progress and bring about that development in place, but we continue to be the type of persons who are selfish and looking and not seeing football for what it is, then we are going to always block change. And even though it's something that is going to be for the betterment of the country and for football and for the youth, you're going to find persons who are going to stand up against it for their own reasons. And so if we don't change the mindset and everybody see it as something professional, then we are going to have problems. And the second thing is you have to get people to understand that the product of football has to begin from a youth level. The parents, everybody have to buy into this. So I have to get parents involved. Parents can no longer sit by and say, send the kids to go and play football. Your kids need to be able to look at the stand and see mommy up there in a jersey saying my son is, and feel proud of that moment, so that they want to participate and build that relationship. Stakeholders in St. Vincent have to change their mindset towards how they see the sport. But it is not only their fault. It's we have conducted ourselves and our affairs as footballers, as the persons in charge of football over the period, over years, not 10 years, not 15 years, but long period. When I was out of football, football was given a bad name. I came into football and football continued to be defamed. And so it is something that you have to look at and get persons now to change. I figure a lot of persons still talk about my presidency in the 15 months in 2019 and what I did and how I got persons back on board with football. And football was so exciting and football was so this. If I'm not elected as president, I'm sure that would continue. People would still remember my name back then for what I did in the 15 months. But there are bigger things to accomplish. There are a lot more that we could do and we could accomplish. And so, like I said, there's so many things, Christal, that we have to change. But I believe that one of the setbacks, major setbacks, is the way that we think as Vincentians and how we see sports and sports development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
You mentioned if you're not successful, then what are the plans?
Well, I would continue to work with my club, continue to try to make my own contribution to youth development in my community, and I will continue to work on my day-to-day job, ensure that I'm able to take care of my family and provide for their needs. But other than that, I would continue to work where I am needed and continue to try to develop football in my own little corner of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And hopefully it spreads and people are able to see it down the road and say, okay, hey, we didn't give him another chance again, but sometime I'm a young man, fairly young. So I figure with God and time, I still have some time.
All right, well, we're getting a bit closer to the end of the interview, unfortunately, but what is something that you'd like to leave with the listeners?
I want to tell, because St. Vincent is so diverse, and like you rightfully said, not everybody loves football. Some people don't care what happens to football, but we are a close-knit community, and what affects one affects all. We have seen that with COVID. We have seen that with a lot of things, the volcano. And football is one of those things that could have an effect on a lot of persons, poor persons, change their world, change their life. I want to tell the public that when I get there as president, I want all of us to see football in the way that it should be seen, buy into it, support it, get involved with the sport, get involved with your kids, being a part of the sport, and don't think that it's for them. It is not for me. It is for all of us. I know right now there's a lot of movements happening for cricket, and it seems like there's nothing happening for football, but don't worry. in time, when Fraser gets back there as president and Team Fraser is in there, I'm telling you, football will be big again.
I'll say this much though. There are always talks of police youth club or Pathfinder club, cadets. But growing up, I saw football influence a lot of young men positively, and people don't speak enough about that.
Definitely.
Football definitely it introduces discipline. It's good for your health, and it brings a sense of togetherness. As you said, we are a close-knit community. Conflict resolution. A lot of disputes I've seen settled peacefully on the football field, and I'm not a big football person, and as an onlooker, could tell you the amount of positives I've seen football bring for the youth of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yep.
And even businesses, when you have forums, the friendly competition that we see on the grammar school playing field.
And then masters.
Yes. And
Yes.
you rightfully spoke about Police Youth Club. They're doing a tremendous job with youths across St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
Not just football, but netball and mentorship programs and all of these. And those are persons that we have sat down with as Team Fraser and have had engagement with, and we plan to make sure that is even bigger than it currently is when it comes to football and sports in general in St. Vincent. So the Police Youth Club, I take this opportunity to big them up straight too. Yeah, they've been doing a lot.
All right, awesome. We have is Lisa here?
Yes, she is.
All right, we gotta go. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us, and all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, and once again, big up to everybody who's supporting Team Fraser.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen,